Good afternoon, one and all. I, Ms. Priyanka Bandivadekar, welcome our delegates and participants in this second half session of e-conference entitled Global Pharmaceutical Challenges in Drug Development for the Treatment of Cancer and Their Impact in Regulatory Management. A conference is gathering of people who singly can do nothing but together can. So, moving towards session, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce our delegate, Dr. Praveen Kumar Ingre. Dr. Praveen Kumar Ingre, working as a senior lecturer since 2014 in the Department of Pharmacy Practice School of Pharmacy International Medical University, Malaysia, and served as a chief editor of a Journal of Pharmaceutical Research and Clinical Practice, which is published under a well-known publisher, Wolters Kluwer, since 2011. He has a guide for UG and PG students. Sir is a founder and president of Harivishwa Education Society. Dr. Ingray has 14 years of teaching experience and 10 years of experience as a chief editor. Sir has published more than 50 research, review, short papers in national and international journals and participated in more than 35 seminars, conferences, workshops, trainings at national and international level. Dr. Praveen Kumar received research grant of RM, that is Ringgit Malaysia, with a total amount more than 1 lakh for research project of UG and PG student from IMU University. He is actively involved in designing, developing, curriculum mapping and content delivery of newly launched Master in Pharmacy Practice, that is a postgraduate course with a clinical research specialization, and also contributed to other healthcare programs, curriculum designing such as postgraduate diploma in diabetes management and education. Apart from teaching and administration, Dr. Praveen Kumar also involved in developing teaching tools, teaching and coordinating other academic activities or sessions like blending learning, objective structured clinical examinations, skill development dispensing practical, case based learning, problem based learning, pharmaceutical care plans, computer aided learning, e learning, flip classes, etc. He is a member of several professional sciences like APTI and Indian Hospital Pharmacist Association, that is IHPA. With this short introduction, I request our passionate and venerable speaker, Dr. Praveen Kumar Ingre sir, to commence his presentation. Please, sir.
Thank you so much for my introduction. Nice introduction. Okay, and first of all, at the outset, I would like to thanks to Kokan Nanpit Rahul Dharkar College of Pharmacy and Research Institute Karjat, and thank you for inviting me as a resource person for this AICT sponsored e-conference. And also, I would like to thanks to Dr. Mohan Kale, Dr. Bharat Tekade, and all his team members. Okay, so as we are meeting the first time online, so this is the opportunity we got because of COVID-19. And today's my session and talk is related with the evolution of anti-cancer drug therapy from manufacturing to clinical practice. So what I'm going to cover here is because I'm not focusing on the areas those are already given in the textbook. So out of textbook, the other things. So what are the clinical practice related things, and then the evidence based practices, and then what are the the innovations are going on in the field of anti-cancer drug therapy evolution. So mainly I am focusing here on the clinical practice side with the some example that will give you some insight of the topic, and that will be beneficial for all of you. So I'm considering the today's audience is like from the diploma pharmacy student, the B pharmacy student, as well as the postgraduate, those are doing the PhD, and also those faculty members. So I would like to thanks to all those participated in this AICT sponsored e-conference and attending this webinar of this the college that arranged the things. Okay, so let us start with the presentation. Just I will check. Okay, so now it's okay. I think everyone can see the PowerPoint. Okay, so this is just a short introduction about the university where I'm working. So I'm working in IMU, that is International Medical University, and that is the Malaysia's first and most established private medical health sciences university with 28 years of dedicated focus in healthcare education. IMU has a Setara 2017 rating of 6 stars, that is outstanding and is the highest one. So out of 6, IMU got the 6 stars under the mature university category. So here I am working in International Medical University in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So this is about the YouTube channel. So in this COVID-19 situation also, I given some talk related with the some motivational things. So like self-reflection and other the topics related with the actually the PharmD and also the clinical pharmacy and also for the pharmacy students. So it will be helpful for all the student from diploma to the PharmD, B Pharm, M Pharm, and also those are pursuing their PhD or planning to have their PhD in the near future. So it will be beneficial for them. So just you can have this QR code and later you can visit and see the YouTube channels and related topics if you are interested in particularly in those topics. So this is the quote. Generally, I mentioned we'll start with the positive quote. Okay, so each and every session I will start with the some quote. So this is the quote I actually made for this the stress management. Obviously in the cancer also one of the cause, like some of the literature already mentioned that the cause is might be the stress. So that is a triggering factor. So I'm not telling that is a very the important factor, but it is a factor that is indirectly coming into the picture whenever the patient is having the stress and anger. So that ultimately going cumulative way and it leads to sometime the changes in the structure of the gene, and ultimately it may lead to sometime the cancer, because ultimately the stress is reducing the immune power of the patient. So obviously if there is a low immunity, there is a more chances of getting the infection, getting the chances of this type of non-communicable disease. Cancer is not alone in that category, there are others also, the many things are there. Okay, the many disease condition, the non-communicable disease. So this is the quote: think positively and choose your own experience as a weapon against the stress. So this is the way you need to think positively and you need to have the healthy mind. So it's the mental health is very important. So as per like we are talking about the cancer, we need to have the stress management also, because this is not only related with the patient but the caretaker. Those are the family members, those are also suffering from that condition also. So if someone get diagnosed as a cancer in the family, so obviously the those are taking care of that patient in the family also will get affected. So in that way we need to have the stress management, and that's how the role of meditation and then the yoga comes here. And many literature already they cited the role in that way. So that is how we need to learn how we can nurture our brain in a positive way instead of thinking in a negative way. Ultimately the thinking in a negative way will impact your own body, and also it will in the long term it will damage yourself. So in this condition we need to be how we need to think in a positive way. So there are some titles I covered in this session. So the first one is background. So in background, we will try to see what are those cancer, particularly related with the globally and also in the Indian scenario. So that will be helpful to plan your research in your future accordingly, and also you can have the literature search in that aspect. Okay, so that's why I given the background here, letting you know that what are those particular top 5 cancers in men and women in Indian setup as well as in globally. Because whenever you are trying to have your research, setting your research, it's not about the local context and the national way you're thinking, but it's all about how you globally think, and that's how you plan your research. So that will be helpful for your the coming the those suffering from the cancer, the community. Okay, so that's how we discuss in the background. In the introduction, we'll discuss about what are those particular the cancer treatment available, and what are those the opportunities and challenges in these conditions. Okay, the third one is the manufacturing aspect. I try to give some manufacturing aspect as per my knowledge and also whatever the literature I search. So I given here some innovative way how the manufacturing company are collaborating with each other, and also how they are utilizing their premises, and they are coming with the novel drug delivery system. So that's how the novel drug delivery system role comes here. As like we have the conventional way of treatment, like the what we can say is a cancer chemotherapy, the radiation therapy, and many more like immunomodulation, and many more therapies are there in the cancer. But how about the future we need to think, because as we know that there are many adverse effects related with the conventional, the cancer chemotherapeutic agent. So we need to think and move forward to have the better molecule in a future. So in that way, what are the aspects that I am going to cover in the manufacturing aspect? The clinical practice aspect, obviously as a pharmacist we need to know what is our role in a cancer management, especially as if we are a hospital pharmacist or is a the community pharmacy. And obviously it's a lifelong learning process. We need to use a lot of literature, we need to have the study a lot of literature to have the lifelong learning process, and that should be obviously evidence based practice. So that's how the clinical practice aspects important in the management of cancer, as well as the policy. So what are the policy available, what are the clinical practice guidelines are available? So we are using that guidelines, we are using that policy, and obviously the role of policy makers are also important in that aspect. Okay, and lastly I want to give some message to you regarding the pharmacy education and the quality education. Okay, so we'll start with the background first. Okay, so whenever you're thinking about the global scenario as well as the national scenario, so global scenario, what comes here in the cancer treatment and also in the cancer management is that leading cause. So cancer is a leading cause, as all of you know. So this is a just the revision what we know already, and this is a recent article what we have, that is the the valid article we can say rather. Because there are many sites, websites, and also literature you will get whenever you are searching in a any search engine, but the authenticity of the reference is matter. That's why whenever you're doing your research, do the literature search in a proper way, so that you can have the some valid references, and that is very authentic, that is very important. So because you will get a lot of information regarding the cancer, but how it is reliable, that is very important. So that's why I'm focusing here with the recent articles and showing you how you have the opportunity as a pharmacist in coming time to do your research, to do your work job properly in whenever your community or the clinical pharmacist or a hospital pharmacist. Okay, so this is the second leading cause of death after the cardiovascular complication or the cardiovascular risk factor. So globally, if you are thinking this is a second, but in India now it's coming, the second and is going towards first place, because nowadays if you are looking at the the digit, the statistics of Indian origin, the cancer is growing very fastly. That because of many reasons that we are going to see here. Okay, so now estimated approximately is 9.6 million deaths in 2018. This is a WHO, the World Health Organization data, and globally 1 in 6 death is occurred due to the cancer, and approximately 70% of deaths occurred in low and middle income countries. Okay, and one third deaths occur due to the some reasons that might be related to the behavioral and also the dietary risk factors. So what are those behavior and dietary risk factors? So these are the risk factors. The first one is body mass index. Okay, so obviously the body mass index is high nowadays because of a lot of factors like increase in the body weight. Okay, so how we calculate the body mass index is the body weight and height in meter square, right? So like body mass index is nowadays is not in control because of many factors like lifestyle and how the person are eating, and maybe like overeating. So overeating is one of the cause of stress. So stress that leads to the overeating, and obviously the person will get the high body mass index. So that is one of the factor, risk factor related with the cancer that is reported by World Health Organization. So these are the combined factors. The another one is fruit and vegetable intake. So decreased fruit and vegetable intake is observed in many countries globally. It's not about any single country. So like the Western style of food and all other things that obviously minimizes the intake of fruit and vegetable in the diet. And also physical activity, like most of the people, they are doing their the work online or something like delivering online, and they have their busy schedule. Many reasons are there, and that's how the physical activity goes down. Next comes here in tobacco use. So tobacco use might be like the smoking cigarette or chewing tobacco. It's like the vapor one or non-vapor one. So tobacco use is already dangerous and reported many times, and one of the cause in Indian setup is a tobacco use and also the alcohol use. So there are many states in India, and there are many reports reported by the ICMR and also the World Health Organization, those factors responsible for the development of cancer in each state of the India. So obviously we know that this is a growing burden of cancer in India from antiquity, from a long time. There is a growth, and now in the earlier time, before 2 3 years, we saw the picture of growing is tremendously. So that's how we need to have the proper cancer therapy for the patient, to have the minimize side effect, and to have the better patient safety outcome. Okay, so this is the tobacco use important risk factor. Approximately 22% of the cancerous death occur due to this tobacco use. Cancer causing infection, so mainly those patients having the cancer taking some anti-cancer, or maybe having the radiation, having some certain side effect like mucositis is one of the common, and most of the people have the mucositis in their chemotherapy. And also they are suffering from some infection due to the cancer, and that is hepatitis and human papilloma virus, that is HPV. So many articles are there related with the hepatitis and HPV. If you're interested, you can go further and do the literature search in that way. So 25% of the cancer cases were observed in low and middle income countries. Also the late stage presentation, like the diagnosis is late stage, like in a stage 3 or stage 4. So that's how the diagnosis plays an important role in a cancer treatment. If the patient is diagnosed at the latter stage, obviously the rate of mortality will be more, and the patient may have the survival chances is very less. Like example, what I can mention here is a pancreatic cancer, because the pancreatic cancer in most of the case is very rare cancer, but still it's affecting a lot of people because they are getting diagnosed at the latter time of their the stage, and that's how they are not able to survive their life. So how this actually the cancer having impact, economic impact. So this is the 2010 data. Approximately US dollar 1.16 trillion is the impact, the economic impact due to this cancer. And one in five country, that is a low and middle income countries, they have the necessary important data to drive for the cancer policy. So that's how, like and the conference title is also there, the policy, how we are going to impart the policy in the cancer treatment. So many countries, they have their policies, they have some clinical practice guideline, they have some consensus, like the general comment together. That's how they make a policy. Like in India, we have international this one, Indian Council of Medical Research, right? ICMR. So ICMR, they are also playing a role to have some policies regarding some generalized cancer and also to the specialized cancer like breast cancer, the gastric cancer, the cancer of mouth, and also the lip. So that covers all the our the oral mucosa and all other things, right? So that's how they made a policy. The most common cancers, so this is a global data. So these are the most common cancer, and you can see here the how many people were getting affected because of these common cancers globally. And this is the second figure. You can see here how cancer lead to the death. So these are the top five, that is a lung cancer up to the breast cancer. Those people are getting affected and having the mortality in that case. Okay, so this is the cancer statistics related with the India. So one woman dies of cervical cancer every 8 minutes in India. So why I want to showcase these digits, and why I want to aware all of you to know how the cancer is tremendously growing in an Indian setup, and what particular measures we need to have as a pharmacist, as a researcher, as a scientist. So we have basically many more research, actually the scope in a cervical cancer. So many studies already done in this area, the cervical cancer in the Indian setup itself, if you're going through the literature. But still there is a scope whenever it comes to the formulation side, and also with the pharmaceutical care planning by the pharmacist. Again, two women newly diagnosed with the breast cancer. So out of that, one woman dies because of the same thing. The diagnosis at the latter stage might be at the stage of 3 and 4. That's how the screening is very important in a breast cancer, and that's why the many now organization, they are coming with the different guidelines and also the screening program for the women's, those particularly staying in in the rural area or in urban area of the India. So estimated people living with this disease condition, the cancer, including all the cancer, around 2.25 million, and it might be going and going nowadays if you're thinking about the recent data. So every year there are few new cases, patients registered over the time, and that is more over 11 lakhs every year. So cancer related deaths, this is near about more than 7 lakhs. Okay, and this is how we can categorize like risk of developing cancer before the age of 75 years. So risk of getting the cancer in male is 9.81%, and in female is 9.42%. So these are the total deaths due to the cancer in 2018. Okay, so here you can go through in the detail if you want to go with the WHO guidelines and also with the WHO website, and also the cancerindia.org.in under the ICMR. So here you can see top 5, particularly the cancer, those particularly occur in an Indian scenario with the men and women. So these are the cancer. So that's how we can start our research focusing on those areas, particularly those are, the thirst area, what we can say in terms of, the getting the grant for the your research, and also having your research uh, in a planning your research in a proper way. So that might be related with your preclinical site or in the clinical site, when it comes with the industry setup. So, what are those cancer treatment? I'm not going much in detail with this historical part. So, as we know that 3000 BC we started with the surgery. That that time only there were option is a surgery earlier, before coming the radiation therapy, chemotherapy, and all others therapy like hormonal therapy and the immunomodulation therapy. And nowadays we have the targeted therapy also, that is, by studying the DNA sequencing target, we have the targeted therapy in a cancer patient. So that's how we differentiate the conventional drug therapy of the chemotherapy with the targeted drug therapy. Okay, so that's how the targeted drug therapy nowadays is mainly popular in the cancerous patient, whenever it comes to the cancerous patient. And that's how the clinical research is also going on to focus mainly on the targeted therapy, to know more about the proteins those are causing the cancer, though those are causing, the DNA, the gene, particularly the gene responsible for that. And also some literature they are reporting about the biomarkers. So we need to have the proper biomarkers estimation. That's how we can target a specific cell to have the less adverse effect compared to our conventional chemotherapeutic drugs. Okay, so this is about the introduction. So after the background, so background is very important whenever you are planning with your, the research study, and also with your any literature search. That's why I given all the statistics here. Introduction, why all the questions mark here in this session? It's not all about what I'm revealing to you, but again at the same time I want to think in that way. I need to brainstorm you. If you're really interested to do your clinical research in the cancer therapy and also in the preclinical side, so we need to think, where does the research start actually? So wherever there is a question mark, the research starts there. So that is a simple answer what I can give to my opinion. So whenever you find something missing in the literature, so that's how your mind triggers and you start thinking over that, and you will design your research in that way. That's why we called as a research question. Okay, so what is the need of time? You need to think in that way, because we have a lot of drug therapy. I'm not going to talk on all that aspect, because I saw the all other topics in the conference here. So some, like, they are specifically talking about some target and some receptor and some, the specialized therapy. But here I want to have the focus all over the cancer treatment regimen, including the clinical practice aspect. And that's how I want to brainstorm you here to the audience in my session. So we need to think about what is the need of time, today's time. So we need to think in other way, instead of, going through the flow and going through the normal way. Like, we have the clinical trials, the clinical research. That's we are doing, clinical trials in a phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. But how reliable that particular clinical trials whenever it comes to the cancer treatment, right? So we need to think to change the model of clinical trials also in some way, because some cancerous treatment is mainly, maybe they evolved for the one type of cancer, the breast cancer. Might be that molecule is also helpful for another, type of cancer. So that's how we need to somewhat change the way we are doing the clinical research and also the clinical trials. And that's how we can move forward in our research in the coming time. So that is the way, that is a time actually we need to think in that way, and we need to have some intervention rather doing all the things in a conventional way. So that's how we can have the proper treatment compared to the conventional treatment, and also by that way we can survive the cancerous patient, the mortality as well as the morbidity, because cancer is not only alone, because there are many concomitant, the comorbidity, the comorbid conditions are there. So we need to think in that way, and also we need to tailor the medication as a pharmacist in that way. So we need to have the less mortality as well as morbidity. So that's how the treatment options, the role of pharmacist comes here in the pharmaceutical care planning. So as a pharmacist, we cannot compare directly with the western countries and the Indian scenario, but still now with the pharmd, the student, now there is a growth of the participation of clinical pharmacist in clinical decision making with the healthcare team and also with the doctor. So that's how the pharmacist plays an important role in a treatment option, monitoring the adverse effect, that mainly in the pharmacovigilance, that might be in the clinical trials and also in the hospital setup, the targeted therapy. So we need to think in targeted therapy also, the biomarkers and also the future clinical trials, as I mentioned to you. So targeted therapy, how I can define in a simple way to you here is like, we need to have the target is a targeted drug delivery system, like what we can explain in a pharmaceutics, the way the in a their the way, right? So targeted therapy mainly targets that cancerous cell growth and how we can reduce the adverse effect to the normal cell growth. So that's how it is differing from the conventional therapy to the targeted therapy. But at the same time, targeted therapy is also having the problems like the drug resistance. So whenever you're giving this targeted therapy over the time for a longer duration, the patient might get the drug resistance problem. So in that way we need to check the bioavailability of the drug at that particular target, and also the other drugs that might be the placebo, and also it comes in the randomized clinical trial, that what treatment we have in our olden time and how this new treatment will be more effective than compared to the conventional one. So there are a lot of factors need to be have in mind whenever we are thinking about the targeted therapy. And obviously we need to have the biomarkers to see where there is a mutation occurs, where there is a gene alteration occurs, where there is a protein that mainly involved in a cancerous cell growth. Because at the same time, as a researcher we need to know that where is a difference actually in a cancerous cell and a living normal cell. There are many difference in the cancerous growth and in a normal cell growth, right? In a normal human being there are many cells in the human body, and that's how they work differently. Each living cell work differently, and also cancerous cell will work differently. That's how we need to study first the cell, their protein, their mutation, their genes, how that is getting mutated, and many factors. That's how we get a proper biomarkers. So once we get a proper biomarkers, we can test with the patient, and somehow we can make a proper drug regimen that might be targeted drug therapy. Or also you might be somewhere you heard about the precision medicine, or also the personalized medicine, right? So personalized medicine, as you all of know, like it's a cost, right? It's a very costly, so it's not possible in all the way. But the still researcher are doing their best to have the precision medicine or the the personalized medicine, particularly in the cancerous patient. So these are the other factors, mainly those are the hurdles actually. And sometimes if you're taking as an opportunity, so these challenges particularly you can convert to the opportunities always. So this is a like briefly I given those are the challenges and opportunities in the clinical research setup in India, particularly the diagnosis, the late diagnosis, and the patient is diagnosed at the stage 3 or 4. the clinical research, we don't have that much of setup, and also sometimes there are certain few rare cancers we don't get the number of actually the people in the clinical trials. That is one of the challenge we are having in the clinical research. Whenever it comes to the manufacturing side, obviously the setup for anti-cancer drug development, the manufacturing is costly, and that's how there is a collaboration in between the many pharmaceutical company nowadays, and they are working together to have the better molecule in a near future. Okay, I'm not going to tell you detail in that because of the time constraint. Okay, so infrastructure already, you know that infrastructure is also lacking somewhere in the clinical research as well as in the good manufacturing practice, and only those are having the the WHO certified, WHO GMP, those can manufacture this particular type of drugs with the all type of SOPs, the standard operating procedure. And the screening program, obviously it will be helpful in a breast cancer patient to detect in early stage, and that's how we can minimize the mortality in the women in the India. Gene and protein, so that's how I explained earlier, gene and protein, how they are playing important role in a cancer treatment regimen. And we need to know which gene particularly responsible for causing which type of cancer, which protein is particularly causing which type of the cancer, and how we can inhibit that protein to inhibit the further growth or the tremendous growth of the cancer in the human body. Okay, so these are the manufacturing aspect. So this is the conventional therapy versus targeted therapy, as I told you before. Okay, so significant advances have been made in the field of drug delivery. Okay, but still the patients have a number of unmet needs, offering ample opportunities to the drug companies as well as to the pharmacists to do the research and to grow further in a cancer treatment regimen. So researcher and the scientists, they have their own strategies and the target area, but these have met with limited success in the clinical development phase. So as you know that in the past few decades, if you see, there are many components, there are many molecules. If you are going through the FDA, the Food Drug Administration website, you can see the many molecules come up in the cancer category from the last few decades. Okay, and that's how there is a scope in the cancer treatment development. Okay, so these are the some unmet needs that observe at the manufacturing site. So the first one is the infrastructure, the facility required for the clinical trial, and also the collaboration, because developing a cancer treatment is not the job of one person or one the faculty or in one profession. So this is not all about the pharmacy, but it's always like collaborating with each other, having the molecular biology person, or having the those are mainly related with the gene, and also with the particularly diagnosis of the cancer, and also those are involved in the policy making, the patient feedback is also important whenever it comes with the treatment regimen or preparing any new drug molecule, because the patient that is already is a like the last factor we need to consider as a patient, because the patient involvement is very important whenever it comes with the cancer treatment. So that's why the feedback from them is always important. Okay, so next here is a targeted therapy. So like drug delivery system and delivering drug compounds, targeted cells for a specific time period, and what is our ultimate aim is to have the minimal or no impact on the other healthy cells. So this is the main criteria for the targeted drug delivery. Thereby we can limit the painful side effect of the conventional cancerous drug, the chemotherapeutic drug. So genetics and proteins, so already I mentioned you here is a gene role, and also the protein role is also important. And that's how we need to know also about the biomarkers whenever it comes to the novel drug delivery. So delivering more than one drug at one target site is key important factors. And that's how this is a challenge actually in the pharmaceutical field, like delivering that particular drug at one particular type of target, and also at one point of time. This is a major the challenge in the development of the new drug chemical entity for the cancer. Okay, and as well as the bioavailability, the target site remains a key challenge, that delivering that particular and having the the concentration of the drug at that site. So this is a key role of the particular delivering the bioavailability. Okay, so these are the some innovations. Okay, wearable injectors, like you can see in a coming time. So some already they are in clinical phase. Okay, so these are the innovations particularly occurring in the cancer drug development. Wearable injectors is like looking like what we can say is the insulin pen, and it's a type of injector that injecting the drug. Okay, implantable devices is like same like the insulin pump, what we can have the appearance. Okay, nanoparticle based oral drugs, and there is a nanomedicine. Nanomedicine is a vast subject, and there are many opportunities to do research in that aspect with the cancer therapy. Arrayed micro injections, okay, and intranasal drug delivery, especially the intranasal drug delivery is related with the pain management in a cancerous patient. And that's how we can deal with the pain management in a cancerous patient with using this type of innovation, the drug delivery, the intranasal. There are many again other things like transdermal patches. In some countries already the transdermal patches are using for the pain management, and some countries they are still doing some clinical trials in this aspect. Okay, so this is about the policymakers. The role of policymakers also important in the manufacturing of the drug, to have the minimization in the cost of the drug, and also at the same time we can think about the generic medicine also. So that's how we can minimize the cost of the cancerous drug. But now that option is very limited with the most of the countries. And obviously the patient feedback is also important. Like many patient they want pain free needle technology, or the pain free injection, as like the insulin injection the patient can take at any time in their home. Instead of cancer treatment, we need to have the specialized person, and we need to reconstitute the drug, and accordingly we need to give that particular dose to the patient. So that's how there is a like the skills required from the medical side. So that's how the patient given some feedback in the past few years. And this is the way we can move forward and implement this technology, this feedback, and improve further to have the better outcome, the patient safety, right? So this is about the manufacturing aspect. What about the clinical aspect, the clinical practice aspect? So obviously it will start from the patient safety aspect whenever we are talking about the patient. And as a pharmacist we need to have the proper patient safety aspect, and we need to prevent the harm, as well as it's less chances of harm or the less patient harm. And how we achieve this outcome by monitoring certain the things like the patient, those are having the hepatic dysfunction, those patient having the renal failure. So in that category of patient, as a cancerous patient, as a pharmacist we need to monitor certain parameters in those cases, like serum creatinine. Okay, the renal failure patients, we need to have the serum creatinine. Hepatic dysfunction, obviously we need to monitor the liver enzymes. Okay, that's how we monitor different kind of the profile, the parameters. And that's how we assure the patient safety in that aspect. And that's how the World Health Organization, they took an initiative last year, and they launched a campaign to speak about the patient safety. And that this is the initiative as a pharmacist we should take as a the clinical pharmacy aspect. So this is the clinical pharmacy aspect, like patient safety. So this is a very broad topic. even though we cannot explain with the limited time patient safety. Okay, so that comes from the patient outcome, and also monitoring the adverse drug reactions, and prevention of the ADR, and how the patient have the drug compliance, the the proper drug therapy, and also the patient counseling aspect that also comes here in the patient safety. The next point here is a patient centered care. So as like we are taking a feedback from the patient, and also we are counseling the patient how to take medicines and how to avoid the adverse effect, and when to contact with the physician if you have certain type of warning symptoms, and again, in that way the medication adherence is very important also in the cancerous treatment, because whenever if the patient is not having the proper medication adherence, obviously it may lead with the drug resistance problem, and further that will have the many complications in the near future for that patient. So physician and as well as the pharmacist, they need to use the evidence based practice guideline or the clinical practice guidelines. So here in Malaysia, the Ministry of Health, they are using the clinical practice guidelines. So for the many cancerous treatment, they have their own clinical practice guidelines with the all the guidelines, the diagnostic criteria, and also the treatment strategy in that. In Indian setup, as like uh, for the cancerous patient, we have some policies or the guidelines that we can find out on the ICMR guidelines, like Indian Council of Medical Research. So nowadays in recent time they are uploading many guidelines for the different type of cancerous prevention, and also the management and as well as diagnosis. Okay, so symptom management. So in many cancers, as you know, there are many symptoms, like that might be due to the cancer, and that might be due to the the cancer drug treatment, that is nausea, vomiting, hair loss, mucositis, and many more. Okay, so in that way we need to counsel the patient with the symptoms and how to manage that. Okay, pharmacovigilance is a adverse drug reaction monitoring, and that includes mainly the how we counsel the patient to monitor their adverse effect and to report to the pharmacist or to the physician or to the nursing staff or any other healthcare professional, so that they can report to the National Pharmacovigilance Center, and that's how it goes to the World Health Organization Center, and that will be helpful for the the in the near future for the healthcare professionals. So this is the again another role of the clinical pharmacist is the financial and the resource and also the insurance. So as a clinical pharmacist, again the obviously the patient will be guided by the pharmacist in aspect of the financial crisis, and also what are those particular organization they are dealing with the financial resources, those are not able to pay the treatment cost. So in western countries this practice is going on, but still there is a scope in an Indian setup for the pharmacist to do the counseling the patient in that aspect. Okay, the insurance or might be the financial resources available for the cancer patient. Okay, the nutrition, obviously the nutrition is the factor that also helpful to build up the immunity of the patient. So a role of pharmacist in nutrition, guiding them the diet is also important, and this is another scope for the pharmacist to do something in the nutrition aspect. The palliative care, this is a very broad topic, and that includes the care in a chronic illness patient, particularly in the cancer patient, in a pancreatic cancer or all other types of cancer, whenever the patient is at the last stage of the cancer. And in this palliative care, mainly we are focusing on the patient health care as well as the family members, how we can give the support to them, mainly in the emotional way whenever they have the emotional stress, and that's how the palliative care roles come here in the clinical practice aspects of the cancer patient. Okay, so this is about the palliative care and the role of pharmacist, and also we can increase the quality of life of the patient in that way. Okay, so these are the resources you can use for getting the extra, the literature or the recent movement going in the cancerous treatment or in the policy making, whenever it comes to the particular, the globally or maybe at the national site, a national setup. Okay, so these are the some articles that will be helpful for you as a pharmacist to optimize the drug use in anti-cancer drug and in the clinical setup. Okay, so these are the some principles of chemotherapy. These are the National Cancer Institute, and here you can get more information about the targeted cancer therapies. Okay, and how that differs from the conventional therapy, and also what are the advantages, what are the drawbacks, all the things you can get here. So why I have given here, like, this is the reliable way how you can search the information. So this is another way, like how your immunity plays a role, and immunomodulators, mainly how immunotherapy will be helpful in a cancerous patient. So this is the US FDA website. From here you can see what are those drug approved for the treatment of, the cancer, and which type of particular, which company produced that, and then manufacturing and everything, right? So this is about the last part from my presentation is a pharmaceutical care. Okay, so pharmaceutical care mainly includes all the healthcare professionals together, and why this pharmaceutical care for the pharmacist is to improve the outcome oriented pharmacy practice, and also it is a patient centered, and pharmacist will work along with the patient as well as the healthcare providers to promote the health and prevent the disease condition. And how we do that, because we need to assess the patient in that way, we need to monitor the patient. Okay, initiate a proper treatment regimen and modify the medication use. Okay, so that's how the western the countries, they are working together to have the proper drug regimen for the patients, and that should be, obviously it should be effective, and the outcome base. Okay, so these are the elements of pharmaceutical care, like, the professionalism. So obviously if you are working in all together in a healthcare team, so you need to have the professionalism, involve the patient in the care treatment. Okay, and explain the patient what are the, the cancerous treatment regimens are for, and then how you are going to deal with that whenever there is adverse effect, how can deal with that, how to take the medicine at a proper time with the proper dose, with the proper, the route of administration and each and everything. That's how you can build up the patient confidence in the treatment regimen. Okay, and that's how you need to maintain your moral as well as the ethics to your profession. And clinical decision making, so nowadays there is a the growing factors, like, you need to take a decision from the patient point of view also. Whenever the patient initiating some therapy like chemotherapy or might be the radiation therapy, so we need to take a decision, from the patient also, whether he is able to adopt that or not. If not, then obviously we need to think about the other therapies available for the patient, as like, the targeted therapy is not suitable for all the patient. It's depend of a lot of factors, like, comorbidity and all other factors, the type of cancer, the stage of cancer. Equity in healthcare, like the same, like, the poor people as well as the rich people, they will get all the treatment same for all the cancer. That's how the equity role comes here in the healthcare. And obviously if you want to treat the patient properly, you need to know the all patient data, like, the age of the patient right from the beginning, sex, occupation, allergy status, family and social history, medical and medication history, because there are some trigger factors that contribute to the progression of cancer. That's why the role of each and every component is important here in the clinical data management, in the clinical database. So again, the role of pharmacist here in the medication adherence, and also the patient, also the pharmacist can also let the patient knows that what is the cost effective treatment available, where there is a generic medicine available in case if it is available. Okay, but this is a very rare opportunity now, but might be in the coming time we have the lot of opportunities in this aspect also. Medication compliance. Okay, so sometimes the patient may have the fear because of the side effect, because of the risk, and that's how the role of pharmacist comes here in the medication compliance. And you can tell the patient how to avoid the side effect, how to minimize that, when to take drug, particularly before food or after food, or with other concomitant drugs, because some drugs may have the drug interaction problem also, because this cancer patient may have the other comorbidities and taking a lot of medication at the same time. That's why we need to think in a multidimensional way to treat the patient to have the better patient safety outcome. Okay, and development of drug therapy plan. So that's why the role of pharmacists to develop their drug therapy plan is important, to see all other aspect, to see all other what are the medication the patient is taking apart from the cancerous therapy. Okay, and to know your medicine by the patient. So that's how the patient involvement will be. You can increase the patient involvement in their own therapy. Okay, intervention, modification of the therapeutic plan. So talking with the physician and changing the drug if there is a drug interaction. That's how we can work together with the physician and all other the healthcare staff. Okay, and final outcome, obviously we are all doing this to minimize the medication error, to have the proper patient safety. And obviously, as we discussed earlier, we are using the evidence based medicine, we are using the lot of clinical practice guidelines, also the clinical literature, because as you know that the pandemic, the corona pandemic, nowadays we are getting the daily some latest news, like what are the drugs we can use in a corona disease condition, because this is a newly evolving pandemic, and still we are learning from that. Okay, and that's how we improve the quality of life in the cancer patient. The pharmaceutical care plan, that is again the role of clinical pharmacist comes here, to have the plan of the medicine for the cancerous patient. And that's how we achieve a positive outcome based treatment approach, working together in a healthcare team. And this is a research perspective in a cancerous therapy, in a cancerous the treatment. Okay, so think accordingly, like what I explained to you earlier, like where does the research starts. Okay, have some pilot study for that, have some experimental study, or might be the observational study. So that's how you get warm up in your research, and then you can start with your main research. Okay, so might be like you can do the systematic reviews, like meta analysis also there, the network meta analysis. This is the new upcoming branch is coming now, to have the meta analysis, to getting all the evidence based research question answer from that. And also, as you know, some of you might be heard about the artificial intelligence, the machine learning. This is a new aspect coming here. Okay, so just what you can do here to give the proper keywords. Okay, in artificial intelligence and machine learning, so only the thing, like the machine don't know the keywords, but whenever you are giving a proper keywords to the machine or artificial intelligence, they will do work for you, and then you will get data related to that particular cancer. Say suppose you are doing research in some particular breast cancer. So what you can collect the data from here is to give a proper keyword, and then you can collect all the global data from this artificial intelligence and also from the machine learning. But obviously you need to have the access, right, to the data that is available with the government side. So if you are having that, then it will be easy for you to do the machine learning and move forward in your research. Okay, you can do some social media based research, like some of the research article now publishing with the doing the research with the using WhatsApp and the questionnaire with that, and the the measuring and monitoring the outcome of the treatment by using the WhatsApp group, even, so this is how we can think innovative, and then we can do our research. So obviously patient outcome based research is very much appreciated and important in a chronic condition. So these are the future prospects. So we need to think, where does the research start in cancer, and what are those future opportunities for the pharmacists? Like, the patient counseling is the growing area, and also the palliative care. So in multi-specialty hospital might be in near future. We have the scope in that way. So obviously, as a pharmacist, we need to think locally as well as nationally and also globally to have a proper skill development in our job or in our future prospects. Okay, so these are the references I use for my presentation. So due to the time constraint, I try to cover all the aspects that what I want to deliver here. Okay, so thank you. And if you have any question, always you can just email to me at drfullstoppvingle at gmail.com, because there is the time constraint, and if there are some few questions we can take now. It's up to the organizer.
Uh, yeah, hello, sir. We'll take only one
Yeah,
question because now
yeah,
it's
yeah,
5 p.m. It's the type of it's the time of another speaker. So we'll
yeah,
take only
yeah,
one question,
yeah, yeah.
and here it is in front of you.
Is rice bran oil useful for immunity boosting, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So there are, this is a good question actually, and this is related with the diet. As I told you, the diet also plays an important role in the, the many disease condition, not even cancerous treatment, right? So rice bran oil, some research already published with the rice bran oil and other dietary factors also, and some even they are publishing in the omega 3 fatty acid, how it is helpful in the cancerous treatment. And rice bran also, what I can give the short answer is that it is somehow in the some literature it is showing some effect, some literature still it's showing the question mark whether it's really important in the immunity buildup, because the key component in the cancer kick up is that immunity, right? So whenever the person is having the stress, because there are consequating factor, it's not only about one factor, there are a lot of factors we need to think at the one point of time. So that's how the diet plays a role, stress plays an important role in a cancer treatment. Okay, so rice bran oil is some literature showing the effectiveness, some still they're having the question mark, and they are suggesting that the meta-analysis will be helpful in this particular condition. And also the like the large trials that need to be done in few regions of the globally. It's not all about the one region, because everything is different. Like, the in India itself we have the lot of population that is having the lot of different demographic details. So that's how we need to learn that aspect in this rice bran, this particularly the oil, and also the immunity buildup. But always I can say you that in a short, immunity we cannot build up in a one day. It's a life, it's because of some drugs are available still that are helping to have your immunity build up, immunity boost up, but that is not always, because you need to do a lot of things like exercise, the diet, and having your healthy diet, obviously, right? So if you are using only rice bran oil, it's not going to be helpful always, right? So everything in excess is poisonous to our body. We cannot eat everything in excess, like salt also, like oil also we cannot eat in excess. So that's how the principle comes here, is a excess things lead to the poison. That is a basic principle of pharmacology, right? So that's how the rice bran having this type of the things in the literature. Okay, I think there are many things to discuss, but with the time constraint, I just wrap up my answer with this. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. On
Thank
behalf
you.
of
Thank you.
our beloved principal, sir, thank you for accepting our invitation and for such informative and fruitful session for the future research and career aspects. Dr. Ingrid edify about the cancer and nicely deliver information about growth rate of cancer because of junk foods, current lifestyle, tobacco, and some other causes. He also focused on all over cancer treatment like targeted therapy, biomarkers, etc. Adverse effect resistance occurred due to targeted therapy and clinical practice. He also explained challenges and opportunities in cancer research. While discussing about innovation, he expressed his talk on wearable injectors, implantable devices, arrayed microinjection, intranasal drug delivery. Thank you, sir, for this excellent insight. Now, moving towards last session, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce our next esteemed speaker, Dr. Rahul Manmode. Dr.
Okay.
Rahul Manmode,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah,
yeah,
best of
yeah.
luck for Dr. Rahul Manmode for his session. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, moving towards this last session, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce our next eminent speaker, Dr. Rahul Manmode. Dr. Rahul Manmode, at present serving as a director, quality control chemistry at Hydragenics Pharmaceutical, Cambridge since 2019, and